Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up a really fascinating stack of sources. It's all drawn from material called The Mirror of Self-Love and Relational Harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought this material to us because you want to understand, I think, one of the biggest questions we all face. Why do our relationships sometimes feel like they're just a repeating cycle?
A broken record, yeah. And why does happiness that comes from someone else feel so, so fragile?
Exactly.
And we're looking at this because, at a fundamental level, we are all looking for connection. But the core idea, the thesis that runs through all of this material, it sort of forces us to look in an unexpected direction.
Away from the other person.
Right.
Hmm.
It argues that harmony in your relationships, it isn't found by searching for the perfect partner out there somewhere. It says it begins with the single most critical relationship you have.
The one with yourself.
The one with yourself.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're not talking about vanity here or, just feeling good about yourself on a surface level. This goes deeper.
Much too.
Our deep dive today is all about how building that foundational relationship with yourself isn't just a nice thing to do. It's the absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite for all the harmony you want on the outside.
Right.
We're going to explore this powerful idea of the mirror and then give you the actual actionable toolkit that the sources provide for making a change.
That's good.
So let's start at the very beginning. The source material is quite definitive. It says if we lack self-love, we just don't have the capacity to truly love other people.
It's a heavy claim.
It sounds like a really heavy claim, but when you look closer, it kind of makes sense. If your cup is always empty, you can't pour anything out for someone else without completely draining yourself.
Right. It's about capacity, yes, but it's also about motive. If you don't have that secure internal foundation, if you don't really accept who you are, flaws and all, your interactions with others, they're not really rooted in a genuine connection. They're rooted in need.
Which brings us to what you call the infamous validation trap.
Exactly. That's the immediate consequence. When self-love is missing, we start looking for validation from, external sources.
Partner, your boss, your friends.
Anyone to fill that internal void. And that's the common trap. The problem is that kind of validation, it's always conditional. It's always temporary.
And it puts this massive, unsustainable pressure on the relationship.
A huge pressure. No single human being can be responsible for another person's entire sense of self-esteem.
But hold on, isn't it, normal to want some level of support or affirmation from your partner?
Right.
Where's the line between a healthy connection and that sort of validation seeking?
That's a really important distinction. Healthy connection is about sharing your strength, but also your vulnerability and getting support. Validation seeking, as the source describes it, is when you need the other person's approval just to feel okay about yourself.
Okay.
Think of it this way. In a healthy relationship, your partner adds richness to a life that's already full. In validation seeking, they're like the only pillar holding up a shaky building. If they leave, the whole thing just collapses.
And often, that very neediness, that clinging, is the exact thing that pushes them away.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You end up creating the very abandonment you were trying to avoid.
Exactly. And that leads us right to the heart of this deep dive. Because if looking for validation doesn't work, we have to look at how our internal state actually. It sets the terms for who we attract in the first place.
And this is where it gets really foundational. The core concept from this source material is called the mirror. It suggests that life doesn't meet you where you want to be. It meets you where you are. In essence, your external world just mirrors back to you all the feelings and beliefs you're holding inside.
And it's not magic, it's not wishful thinking, it's about congruence. If you feel deep down that you're unworthy, you will inevitably gravitate towards relationships that confirm that belief.
How does that work in practice?
Okay, so say you have a deep-seated fear of abandonment. Your behavior in a relationship might become controlling or clingy.
Behavior that, ironically, drives the other person away.
Right. And that validates your original fear. That is the mirror. It's reflecting your own insecurity right back at you.
So if I'm chronically insecure, I attract partners who are unreliable. Or if I'm, resentful, I find myself in situations that are full of conflict. The mirror shows us what we're actually dealing with internally.
Precisely. Your internal state becomes the filter, the magnet, and the expectation for your life. And often these feelings, insecurity, unworthiness, jealousy, They're just echoes of patterns we learned in childhood or from past trauma or just carrying old baggage into new situations.
Okay, but I can imagine a lot of people listening are pushing back right now, thinking, wait a minute.
Of course.
Does this mirror idea mean that every time someone treats me badly, it's my fault? Am I attracting betrayal?
And that's the critical question. The source material is really careful here. It's not about blame. It's about responsibility, your ability to respond. Okay.
The mirror shows you that your attraction point and your tolerance level are set by your internal state. You might not cause someone to betray you, but if your self-worth is low, you might stay in that situation way longer than you should.
Or you might just unconsciously seek out partners who are, say, emotionally unavailable because they seem low maintenance.
Exactly. And the relationship then reflects your own internal pattern of believing you're not worthy of consistent, available love.
Wow, that reframes everything. So the goal isn't to change the reflection in the mirror.
Yeah.
The goal is to change the thing casting the reflection, yourself.
Yes. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, it's about achieving what the Source calls internal congruence.
Which is just.
It's simply when your inner experience matches the external stability you want. If you feel whole on the inside, you'll look for partners who complement that wholeness, not partners who you expect to complete you.
So if the mirror is showing us the problem, what's the toolkit? How do we actually fix it? Because seeing a pattern and stopping a pattern are two very, very different things. They really are.
We need practical steps to interrupt those cycles.
We absolutely do. And what we learn here is that just recognizing the pattern, that's the key to freedom. Most of us are operating on these relationship blueprints we inherited.
From our parents or from our first big relationship.
Right. And we just repeat what's familiar, even if what's familiar is actually toxic or painful for us.
I think everyone listening can relate to dating the same person 5 times in a row, just in a different body.
Yes. We gravitate toward the dynamic we know, even when we consciously say we hate it.
So how do you stop that?
It takes deep intentionality. The material really shifts us from being these passive participants who are always asking, why me, to becoming active architects of our own lives.
Okay, I like that. Active architects.
It promises that by recognizing and consciously changing these patterns, we can attract healthy, loving relationships that actually serve us.
And this is where we get into the really actionable steps. The listener needs the how. So the Source gives 4 powerful practices for cultivating self-love. Let's dig into the first 2.
Okay, the first practice is all about intentional language. Practice affirmations. And this isn't just fluffy, feel-good stuff. It's about, like, neural restructuring.
Rewiring the brain.
Exactly. If you've spent years telling yourself, I'm not good enough, you've created these deep grooves in your brain. Affirmations are designed to interrupt those old pathways.
The sources give a great specific example. Practicing, I love and accept myself exactly as I am, which is a direct counter to that conditional love we often grow up with, the idea that you're only loved if you're successful or if you behave a certain way.
And that intentional repetition is so crucial. It gives your subconscious mind a new blueprint to work from. It takes practice, for sure, like learning a language, but it starts that whole process of self-acceptance.
And the second practice flows right out of that one.
Yeah.
Treat yourself with kindness and respect. This is where it becomes real.
It's the tangible translation, yeah.
Because if you say you love yourself in an affirmation, but then you treat yourself with contempt, criticizing your body, putting off your goals, staying in a bad situation, the affirmation doesn't mean anything.
It's about integrity. Self-kindness means replacing that inner critic with an inner compassionate friend. If your best friend made a mistake, would you talk to them the way you talk to yourself?
Never. Not in a million years.
Right. The source says this requires moment-to-moment vigilance.
And the third one is related. It's about maintenance. Take time for self-care and self-reflection. How can people really do that, though, when they're so busy?
Self-reflection is your early warning system. It's about setting aside consistent time, even just 5 minutes, to check in and ask, what pattern am I running right now?
So journaling, or just sitting in silence.
It could be either. It lets you spot those toxic patterns before they blow up into a fight with your partner. And self-care is the other side of that coin. It's honoring your own worth by actually scheduling the things that refuel you. It proves to yourself that your needs matter.
And that leads to the fourth practice, which is, I think, maybe the hardest one for a lot of people, especially people pleasers.
Oh, absolutely.
Learn to set healthy boundaries.
This is paramount. This is how you attract respect. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about defining who you are and what you will accept.
They communicate your self-worth.
They communicate your self-worth to the world. When you don't have boundaries, you're basically telling everyone that your time, your energy, your needs, they're all negotiable, they're less important than theirs.
But the guilt that comes with it, I mean, saying no to a friend or standing firm with a family member, it can feel paralyzing. How did the sources help with that guilt?
They reframe it. They teach us that a boundary is an act of self-love, not an act of hostility. That guilty feeling, that's just the sound of an old pattern breaking. It's the feeling you get when you challenge a learned belief that your job is to make everyone else comfortable, even at your own expense. It's necessary friction.
It's a good sign then.
It's a sign of progress. Now, there is one final essential piece the source material talks about, which is a little separate from those daily practices, and that is the power of forgiveness.
Forgiveness is so often misunderstood. People think it means you're letting someone off the hook.
It's so much deeper than that. The sources emphasize that forgiveness is key because it's a release mechanism, but it's primarily for yourself.
Not for them.
Not for them. When we hold on to resentment or anger about past hurts, we are actively choosing to stay chained to that pain. We are giving that person or that event rent-free space in our head today.
It really is like dragging a heavy anchor behind you, tethered to a ship that sank years ago.
That's a perfect analogy. By forgiving others and forgiving ourselves for our own past mistakes, we cut the rope to that anchor. We stop letting old hurts dictate our present emotions and therefore our present choices.
Which allows you to actually attract something new.
And something better.
This all really boils down to a very clear mission for you, the listener. If you're looking for a healthy, harmonious partnership, the source material is telling you to just stop. Stop looking outward. Turn inward and start by becoming your own best friend.
That's the precondition.
The absolute foundation.
And that's where the natural law of attraction in this context just takes over. If you focus on building your own self-worth, on becoming congruent, life responds. You'll naturally attract relationships that reflect that newfound love and respect for yourself.
Because you won't tolerate anything less.
You'll just cease to tolerate it. It's an internal investment with a massive external dividend.
That does make the process feel so much more manageable. Instead of trying to fix a relationship, you just focus on fixing yourself. So let's quickly summarize the key takeaways for today.
Okay. First, remember the foundation. The most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. It dictates all the others.
Second, always remember the mirror. Your external world is a direct reflection of your internal state. Your insecurities, your fears, your beliefs about your own worthiness, they're all reflected in the dynamics you find yourself in.
Third, you have the power to be an active architect. By changing your patterns, by cultivating self-love through affirmations, kindness, self-care, and boundaries, you can consciously attract healthy relationships.
And finally, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. It's the key to releasing the past so that old baggage doesn't define your future.
And to give you a concrete starting point, the material offers a really powerful affirmation that ties security and vulnerability together. Something to reflect on. It's, I open my heart to love and I am safe.
I open my heart to love and I am safe. I like that.
Use that as a touchstone.
Okay, and on that note, let me leave you with one final provocative thought, tying it all back to that central metaphor of the mirror. If your current relationships, all of them, romantic, professional, even platonic, are a perfect mirror right now, what specific internal emotion, what insecurity, or what learned pattern are they reflecting back to you that you need to address first, starting today?
That's the question.
Thank you for sharing your source material with us for this deep dive.